So we've got these three very clever, informative people in front of us. And did anybody want to ask them? Yeah, Julie?
I wanted to ask Kareem about his perceptions of local authorities' attitude towards this agenda beyond Exeter, because it's very clear, and I think for many years now it's been very clear that Exeter City Council has led the way on its interface with the community voluntary sector and social enterprise sector. But I'd like your reflections on the other local authorities around Devon, because there are still nine others. You knew it would come from me, Kareem.
Well, I think from the conversations I've had with the chief exec, or he's now actually left now, Richard Sheard, from Southampton West Devon, on behalf of the county. So the county have asked Richard to have a look at different models of engaging around this agenda. And Richard come to see me to discuss what could be done, what's possible, and we had a quite interesting conversation with him. It demonstrated to me that I think they're looking, the chief executives and their organisations are looking. But I think there is a legitimate challenge in terms of if you have a track record and you've built a capacity in community work, then you can see it's a natural development to then go on as student and think about other ways. If you haven't done that, it is challenging to come from, because effectively you then have to invest a resource to make this collaboration work. And I think that's a challenge for them. It is the case that when I was at East Devon, we didn't really have that grassroots community development work taking place. But then what I would say for the rural areas, what they do have are parish councils. And it strikes me that when we look at disinvestment models, by which I mean local authorities effectively taking assets out and transferring those assets. I don't know why they've used the word disinvestment. I can only assume it's a local authority saving money. That's the perception. What you find in rural areas across the country is because of that infrastructure is already in place in rural areas, parish councils and town councils, and particularly the town, both of them can precept. That's the issue. For me, that's an interesting model, that you could effectively empower town councils and parish councils who can precept to deliver for those communities of things that they need. So there's some advantages they could build on if there was an appetite.
Anyone else with any questions, observations, comments?
It was an observation on that, really, because I'm coming from Plymouth, which is, a big city over to the west. And we're a cooperative council and very much focused on everything that's been said this morning, meaning that the citizens and the communities make the decisions. I'm from the Zebra Collective, which is also a cooperative. We're very cooperative thinking at the moment. And we've been given a 1-year contract to see exactly how we can change the perceptions of the voluntary and community sector in particular, and how they work, and how that can fit in with the transformation agenda of the council. So I suppose my question is, we're struggling with and trying out, and sometimes succeeding and sometimes failing, ways of beginning to work out what co-production means and what it means to build capacity at the very grassroots so that people feel they're empowered to make decisions. Any bright practical ideas? I want lots.
Anyone?
Can I share perhaps some of my thoughts on that?
Yes.
I think co-production comes from, as I said, is getting onto common ground. What we looked at in my little 9-dot box problem is that we're stuck in our own thinking, and that's what makes it fearful to step outside of that. But that happens for all of us. So you and I have our own boxes, and they're over here from each other. It's tempting to say that the goal is to try and get to the middle. The difficulty of doing that is that it's hard for you to get out of your box, it's hard for me to get out of mine, so it's impossible to imagine that that will ever happen. And those midpoint compromises don't mean anything to anyone. So if I want to work with you, what I have to do is I have to be brave enough to jump into your box completely. Because it's the degree to which I'm willing to understand your priorities, your objectives, what is it that you're doing and how can I help you to do that will allow me to bring mine to the table as well. And I think it's that willingness to embrace the interests of the other party, a genuine willingness to do it, a real interest, a real curiosity. What is it that you're trying to do? How can I help you? Where's the room for me to help you? Rather than, oh, what is it you want from me? How can I look after it so that you don't get it?
I think the issue for me, which is struck home, is it's no longer about the public sector delivering services, and effectively you, the citizen you approach, are forced to choose between a number of services. That fundamentally now we have to design services, or rather what is needed around the individual. And it's a different conversation, and it's quite manifest to us from the conversation we have at our help desk when individuals present themselves to us and they say, we've got a housing problem, and because of the work we've done to redesign our services now such that we take that individual and their problems, so we no longer have that conventional service arrangement. When our officers take ownership of that individual's problem and unpick that housing presented problem, it often turns out to be not a housing problem. It's often a financial problem. It's often the inability to earn an appropriate wage that allows it to solve the housing problem. And in doing that redesign work around the need of the individual, as opposed to what our housing officers have available or what other services have available, what it's showing is the role that can be found, if you like, for our voluntary sectors to solve that problem. And that solving that problem isn't going to be a case of the local authority solving it its own. So hence, our members have taken the decision, the Citizens Advice Bureau, have to be fundamentally part of the solution now, so they're co-locating into that council, because when the officers have a case conference, the moment somebody comes to the desk and says they've got a housing problem, somebody goes, tries to understand the problem, comes back, confers in a conference, and then they find the solution to that problem. And they solve that problem often very quickly because their mindset is to solve the problem. That financial expertise that is held by Citizens Advice Bureau rather, CAB, is fundamental as resolution of that solution. It's no longer seen as an add-on. It's part and parcel of solving that problem. So the question for me is, can we move from that kind of approach to vertical integration, so places like the County Council and their health agenda, public health, and their ability to tackle some of the other issues that all flow from this individual need. Because we have a two-tier system, and because we haven't got the integrated work with public health, with the health service, the hospitals, so we are now actively looking outside into other localities where they are much more advanced in that integration to learn from. So we don't have the answers. We know we're on the journey, and we know there's some interesting work that we can do. But I'm here, as much to listen to see if we can find ways.
I was just going
Okay,
to
great
add
point,
something to that.
because
So,
we're all
yeah,
desperate for a coffee.
a reflection on the process that was just explained is systems thinking.
Yes.
If you think about a problem being a resource that you can use in another way, and if you think about vertical integration being where you've mapped out all of those resources that are available within the city, you understand where they are, but also the opportunities for something else to grow and anything else to happen, an individual to take on something of a challenge, then you can bring these things together. And I think at the moment we haven't mapped our cities and really understand what that landscape looks like.
Well, maybe we have to take that up, because we've gone through a systems thinking approach to that. But you are right, we haven't mapped that whole journey, and which might allow us to come to that solution.
Someone write that down.
That's the
Someone
journey.
write that down.